Hello, everybody. Thank you for clicking on that link. Thank you for joining me on this podcast. Thank you for taking out time out of, I will suppose, your busy schedule to try and find out exactly what I'm going to be saying today. Yes, we are talking about Empower, which is the eighth pill in the 9 toolbox kit. It's the part B of the Empower and Educate series. It's going to be quite interesting. It's going to be one that will stimulate some thinking. But that's the objective of this podcast, to stimulate thinking amongst us. Right, so let's get into this. I believe that we need to be empowered, and we need to be empowered right now. And so, in context of that, I will be speaking in a very, very pensive mode, at least when I start off this discourse, because I'm speaking about something that is quite close to my heart, having to change our consciousness. And fear is the lowest vibration, and fear weakens our immune system. Okay, and I'm not passing across fear. I mean, we are in a time where there is so much fear. Today being the 4th of April 2020, we are sitting in the midst of a pandemic, and there's so much fear. So it's not my intention to add to that fear. However, I need to mention that fear is the lowest vibration, and fear weakens our immune system. So with this pandemic that we are going through now, we are suspect and we are prone to it based on our immunity. I'm not going to talk about that now, but I just needed to mention I'm not going to be passing fear. I'm going to be passing across facts, and it's facts to inform a tribe, to inform a people. I'm going to have to comment, like I mentioned, on a very pensive note, this particular podcast on a down tone, with a note that we are indeed working through the most difficult times to ever grace mankind in our generation. We are not living through a science fiction. We are walking through a path in life that will be documented and referred to in generations to come as the era that propelled mankind into the most dark of periods. Guys, the COVID-19 pandemic is not going to be as bad as the aftermath of the pandemic itself. That, unfortunately, is the bad news. However, the reality of the future that we face currently, that we face now, is the fact that there's hope. There is hope. We need to keep an optimistic and objective mindset. This period will be documented as that period that ushered in the time when we will be offered protection from future pandemics. I'm going to repeat that. This period is going to be documented as that period that ushered in the time when we will be offered protection from future pandemics. I will make a podcast titled The Coming Solution. Please look out for it. I will warn. I warn. It's not going to be what you expect, but these are indeed trying times. What we are working through is indeed trying times. Now, watch out for this name, Tedros Adhanom. Watch out for that name, Tedros Adhanom. Okay? I'm not going to say much more than that. You're going to see his picture very soon, and you can put 2 and 2 together when you see his picture. Albert Einstein is going to appear a lot on this particular podcast, and that is for one major reason. Albert Einstein survived 3 massive events that have reshaped our lives. We are going through the 4th major event that will reshape our lives beyond the 3 that Albert Einstein went through. Therefore, he is going to be featuring quite a lot. We are going to lose more millions and millions of people globally post COVID-19. We're going to lose more than 100 times of what we will lose from COVID-19 itself. I say that, and I say that with a huge level of confidence. Now, this is going to happen within 2 to 10 years of the COVID-19 virus just disappearing, just the same way it appeared. There will be unintended and intended consequences of the aftermath of COVID-19. It's going to happen. 5 major big players will be part of this global matrix. Okay? And I'll mention who these 5 major big players are. It's the big foodie, it's the big cosmeceuticals, it's the big pharma, and it's the big telco. Those are 4 big players. And of course, those 4 big players are going to interact with we, the big consumers. Now, today is the 4th of April, 2020. We are facing a 5th industrial revolution post COVID-19. Now, this revolution will usher in a loss of over 50% of conventional 9-to-5 jobs as we know it today. Now, guys, be prepared. It is coming, and it will hit hardest on those of us who are unprepared. 90%, I've mentioned this in my previous podcast, of visits to medical doctors are stress-related illnesses. Now, this is about to exponentially explode post-COVID-19. Medical doctors are about to experience the biggest spike in their practice post-COVID-19. This is coming. This will suck in the ignorant. It will suck in the unprepared. Those of us who choose to stay on the lane of what they've been socialized in, since they were educated, who choose to stay in this system, the same system that will unfortunately compromise their quality of life, both in terms of health and wealth. It's going to suck in the unprepared. Now, let me make this clear. These guys, when I say these guys, WHO, are meant to be looking after us. Okay? However, they are only looking after the 1 percentile. Now, we pay them, we pay WHO to do that, to look after us. But they get paid by the big 4. Okay? And this makes the world sick. You know names like the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, Bill Gates Foundation, that is meant to eradicate pandemics globally through soon to be released vaccines. Vaccines are going to be released very soon. My heart, I tear for the world. Okay, the danger we are facing now is largely with these 4 groups that I'm going to mention. There are 4 groups that are in high level of danger. Okay, it's those who are compromised and have low immune systems. It's the old, it's the elderly, and it's those with pre-existing health problems. Now, these are the ones who are putting more pressure on their immune systems. These are the ones who need to adopt a new lifestyle immediately. They need to do this in order to prepare themselves for the next wave of what the big 4 are set to release on humanity post the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm sounding out certain alarm bells. And because you're listening to me, I would encourage you to take this seriously. Now, you will not taste it. You will not smell it. You will not touch it. You will not see it. You will not hear it. You will not feel it. It will take in its wake over 100 times the casualty that today's COVID-19 will take. Its symptoms will be very similar to the COVID-19 virus symptoms, or similar to flu symptoms. I'm not the prophet of doom. I'm just using this platform to sound out some alarm bells. Now, if we fail to adopt a new lifestyle, if we fail to reprogram our minds, most especially those with pre-existing health problems, problems such as cardiovascular issues, if you've got high blood pressure or hypertension, if you've got coronary heart disease, if you've got or if you've suffered from cardiac arrest or heart failures or strokes, or if you have a neurodegenerative disease like the Alzheimer's disease or Parkinson's disease or any other dementias, or if you have abdominal obesity or type 2 diabetes, liver or kidney disorders, then you are extremely vulnerable post COVID-19. Now, these are the ones that are in the most danger. These are the ones that we as a tribe want to reach out to with the census toolkit the most. These are the people we want to be speaking to. Interestingly, we will have a system in place to give an indication of the immunity levels of members of this tribe. Now, this particular system, okay, will help in building people's immunities, help in building their immunity levels so as to be able to achieve the desired optimal health and wealth results that each person wants to achieve. That is the objective of having this system in place. Now, pharmaceuticals, their drugs, big pharma drugs, kill more than 500,000 people a year. And yet there is a global war on street drugs, which kills less than 50,000 people a year. Okay, at least 500,000 people die each year from medical treatment, which is called iatrogenesis, and nobody goes to jail for this. You know why? Because it is the likes of WHO, the likes of the American Heart Association, the likes of Food and Drug Association. Okay, it's these people who, in my opinion, based on facts, are organized corporate, I won't say the word terrorists, but they operate as organized corporate criminals. And the numbers that die yearly from medical related treatment, iatrogenic treatment, are about to get a quantum leap post COVID-19. Now, listen out for my podcast I'm going to make a podcast, okay? And I'll probably call it something like the Machiavellian post COVID-19 plan. Okay, it's going to blow your mind. In the meantime, we are continuing with our careful plan not to be sucked into the current world events, and we're going to continue building a solid foundation based on the census toolbox kit. That is our premise. That's our foundation. Okay, and I'm going to take you through this quickly. We are on the 8th pill, which is the education and empower pill, the purple one. We've gone through 7 of the others. We're about to finish on this foundational podcast. We're left with just one more, success. Okay. We've created the census toolbox kit to give a basis and platform to exercise the art and science of changing the environment around us and also the environment inside of us, so that we are no longer living as victims, but we are living and having full control over our own biology, over our own destinies. This particular one is going to be a 2-part series on the empower pill. There is just a lot I need to drive home as part of the foundation. A lot of it is going to be repetitive, and this is deliberate. So guys, welcome to empowering your consciousness. This is part of the 9 toolbox kit. Our objective is to create new consciousness, new awareness. We are having new conversations, essentially. And we are on the 8th pill. It's the education and empower pill. The objective of all these pills is to create and give us the ultimate success. And in achieving success, we will have optimal 5-star health and wealth. That is the objective. And so we are going to go through an interesting journey. And I've decided to draw up this journey because it's a journey that I myself have gone through in recovering my chronic illness. And the 9 synthesis pills became the base model. I did not want my health to be a random situation or a random occurrence. So the 9 pills have worked for me. I've optimized my health. I've reversed my chronic illnesses. I've been healed from chronic fatigue syndrome. I've been healed from fibromyalgia. I've reversed liver fibrosis, which in itself is just a few steps from liver cirrhosis and possibly liver cancer. I have lost in the process 20 kilograms in reversing abdominal obesity. And in doing that, preventing myself from possible high blood pressure, heart attacks, or strokes. I've totally reversed my incidence of sexual dysfunction, which we otherwise call erectile dysfunction. And I did all this within a period of 3 years, a period where I was wrongly diagnosed with symptomatic severe depression and anxiety disorders. And I did this. I was able to reverse my chronic illnesses by experimenting and going against the grain. I went against traditional medical advice. I stopped all the over 15 daily doses of antipsychotic chemical nonsense that I was taking at that point in time. And so essentially, I became a biohacker, okay, essentially. As a result of this, I have a dossier, I have a journal, I have a record, I have a detailed account of the numerous, call it hacks, that I've done to myself and still doing in order to achieve optimal health and wealth. No one can do it for you. I had to do it myself. Stop taking over 15 petrochemical drugs daily and make the body heal itself through the application of the synthesis toolbox kit, the 9 pills. I apply this daily. Now, this has given me the confidence to develop a tool, a solution, a way of life called synthesis with one purpose. One purpose. It's a vision and a purpose that is much bigger than what I can achieve, most especially if I try and achieve it single-handedly. And that purpose is to transform the lives of individuals, one person at a time, in order to create a culture and a tribe that will live in optimal health and wealth. That is the purpose. My understanding through all the hacks that I did, the hacks I did with my body, with my consciousness, changed my reality. Knowing that my personality is the one element that can create my personal reality. So I had to work on myself. Now, the reason why changing my consciousness was so relevant to me was and is still because I got to learn that 95% of my life comes from the programs in my subconsciousness, and only 5% of my life is about using my consciousness. Now, this revelation or this awareness has transformed my life, and it is my goal to share this through a series of short podcasts and also other means. So look out for this. My new understanding that is also a scientific fact is that it is a fact that 95% of our life comes from those programs in this subconsciousness downloaded in the first 7 years of our lives. And that only 5%, as mentioned earlier, of our lives is about us using our consciousnesses or our consciousness. Our consciousness being the creative part of our lives. So essentially, as a result, it became essential for me that the programs stored in my mind, which can only be reprogrammed through a deliberate set of actions, through certain steps, and through effective meditation, need to be deliberate. They need to be something you do consciously, and hence I've developed the Synthesis Toolbox Kit. I decided to take positive actions, as my favorite book instructs, about changing the course of one's mind through deliberate and conscious efforts. Now, two references in the good book, my favorite book, have stirred up this particular part B in the eighth pill, which is the eighth pill in the Synthesis Toolbox Kit. And the first reference is that I should meditate upon certain things. I should give myself wholly to them, so that what I profit may appear to all. Now, that's the first reference. And the second reference, or the second advice by my favorite book, by the good book, is to also keep the advice that is in the book always on my lips. And I do that by meditating on it day and night, so that I may be careful to do everything written in it. Then and then only will I prosper and be successful. So, taking off from these two words of advice, we now have this pill, the education and empower tool or pill. The mind and its state of being is key to our health and wealth success. I am sure that we agree with this fact that I've just mentioned, that the mind and its state of being is key to our health and wealth. So this is going to propel me in touching certain things. Now, as a pioneer, I'm myself being a pioneer in the Synthesis Toolbox Kit, I've had to experiment a lot on my biology, on my mind, on my body, my spirit, and on my physical performance in order to generate a level of confidence to share this with just the one person who will take it on board. It's giving me that confidence. It all boils down to a high level of consciousness and control over what we have control over, and deliberately and consciously giving up on one element, which is the number one cause of visits to doctors. I've mentioned in my previous podcast. If you check out my podcast, the Stress Pill podcast, giving up consciously and deliberately stress and letting go of what we have no control over will save our lives, guys. You have got no control over it, let it go. Stress is the number one cause of visits to medical doctors. Now, in this tribe, we believe we have absolute control over our lives, over our health, over our wealth. The question is, are we prepared to put in the graft? That is the question. Are we prepared to take the 9 pills in the Synthesis Toolbox kit as daily prescriptions for a minimum of 9 months? Now that depends on the nature and the state of your health. Okay, but I've prescribed minimum 9 months. Now, let me give an example here. So, say we take the pill number 7, which is the sex pill. Okay, so we take that pill. Now, we are not saying you're going to take the sex pill every day in order to have sex every day. No. What we are saying as part of this tribe is that you take the ingredients prescribed as part of the sex pill. And what are these ingredients? What do we recommend for optimal sex lives? What do we recommend? Now, we recommend a balanced approach on activities such as taking vitamin D, which we call the sunshine vitamins globally. That's what it's called. We recommend exercising. We recommend nourishing your body daily with essential micro and macronutrients. We recommend taking minerals. We recommend taking raw foods daily. I take raw foods daily. We recommend avoiding sugars. We recommend sleeping well. We recommend eating cholesterol-rich meals. Forget about the rubbish you've been socializing that high cholesterol is bad for your body. We recommend eating cholesterol-rich meals, such as taking as many as, if you so desire, 6 soft-boiled eggs at least 4 times a week. That will improve your cholesterol level. We advise highly hydrating the body with appropriate water. We advise and we recommend detoxifying your body. We recommend and advise improving your metabolism, and the list keeps growing and growing. Now, what we say is that when we do all these things daily, okay, with the context of building your optimal sex life, then what we are doing is daily taking the sex pill. And we are saying when you do have sexual intercourse, then as a man, I'm referring to a man here, you will have a strong enough erection to carry you through. And in doing that, in having a strong enough erection to carry you through, you will satisfy both yourself and your partner. Now, for this tribe, this is what we call optimal sex. So I've just selected that particular pill, the sex pill, to make you realize that we can use this on a daily basis to achieve that result. So here's my challenge. We've been socialized to wanting results instantaneously. That's how we've been socialized. We've been taught to want things and get them now. Okay? That's why we have microwave ovens. We have been taught and conditioned to keep doing the same things over and over till we get the results we want. Unfortunately, with health, when it comes to issues of health, once you get programmed to depend on petrochemical drugs, okay, and you accept that as your reality, unfortunately, the end result is already predetermined and will be at a cost beyond just monetary. So an abdominally obese person wants to lose weight, most especially in his midsection. So he or she goes straight bang into reducing the amount of food that he or she takes as against the quality of food they take. Now they go bang into wanting to do detoxifying as opposed to first building up the body system. Now they start catabolizing in doing that before metabolizing. Now understand that both catabolizing and metabolizing involve the breaking down of molecules. However, both have different functions, both have different methodologies, both have different times, both have different sequences. And if we are not educated and empowered, we'll be doing the right thing, however, in the wrong way, ending up in us getting frustrated and flustered in trying to lose weight. So we want to reduce the fat around the waist, but we are doing the wrong things. We get frustrated in trying to drop our blood pressure. We get frustrated in achieving optimal health. And that's because we've been socialized in the wrong ways and we want results instantaneously. So here's my question. Are we prepared to optimize and upgrade our minds and our bodies? Are we prepared to teach our bodies that our minds are meant to be the generals and that our bodies are meant to be the soldiers? If we are prepared, then we're going to get and observe a new experience. However, in order to do that, in order to have a new experience, in order for that new experience to enrich us, that new experience is going to enrich the circuits in our brain, because that's the newness that the brain requires. And the newness it experiences will make us feel like a leader, will make us feel new. It's going to make us feel successful we're going to feel clear, and the moment we ascend to that plateau of feeling clear and feeling successful, the moment we attain to that crescendo, the moment we feel that feeling, at those moments, what we are doing is we are teaching our bodies chemically to understand what our minds currently are. Now, at that moment, we will intellectually understand that knowledge is for the mind and a good experience is for the body. What am I trying to say here? When we experience that new experience is going to enrich the circuits in our brains. And at that moment, we will intellectually understand that knowledge is for the mind and a good experience is for the body. I needed to repeat on that so we understand fully what I'm trying to say. In that moment, we are embodying leadership, basically. We are embodying clarity, and this requires us stepping into the unknown. And if we step into the unknown and have a strong presence of mind, then, guys, watch it. We will feel uncomfortable. And now that is great. It is great and good because now we are leaving the failures of our bodies. We are leaving the decadence of chemicals behind. We have decided to leave behind what we've been socialized in for years, and for some of us for decades. Now, the warning here is that it is going to be a very uncomfortable feeling. And I have a challenge. And my challenge with respect and in regards to this podcast and applying the 9 pills in the Synthesis Toolbox kit is that most people want to get healthy and create wealth. However, they get pulled back from trying out the very required thing that will transform their lives, the things that will transform their being. Yes, we want a new life. However, we feel we cannot let go of what we have learned over the decades. Life matters that we so naturally and so easily feel comfortable embracing. The matters of life, we embrace them so comfortably. Now, this is where we have the mind and the body in direct conflict and in direct opposition to each other, because we need to let go and get transformed, and it's going to be extremely, extremely, extremely uncomfortable. Okay, so there's going to be a war within ourselves. Now, what Synthesis does, the Toolbox kit, what it does is that when applied daily for at least 9 months unbroken, okay? Now, this is from my own personal experience and the hacks that I've done, is that I know that you can teach yourself to recondition your body to a new body when your mind is reprogrammed into a new consciousness. And when that occurs, you begin to create very powerful things in your life. It is useful to state here that, like I mentioned, it is going to be very uncomfortable. It's going to be very unfamiliar. However, when you stick to it and get over that breakpoint, success becomes the reward automatically. Now, with the 9 pills in the Synthesis Toolbox kit, what we've put together is a model to facilitate the creation of a new health and wealth conscious personality. We believe in our tribe that a person's personality creates his or her personal reality, and that members of this tribe will acquire new optimal health and wealth. They will acquire new personalities made up of how we think, of how we feel, of how we act with regards to health and wealth. We would like for everyone who listens to our podcast to bring along their current thought processes and their current ideologies on health and wealth. However, we will ask that each one of us who listens to this podcast and eventually becomes a part of this tribe, we will ask that you apply three things. These are three things which I mentioned when I launched out on the 15th of February in Burj Khalifa. I mentioned three things that I would like, as members of this tribe, or whenever you listen to the podcast, to put in the backdrop of your mind. Now, these three things are the following. What do we know now about the topic in discourse? What do we need to know about the topic in discourse? What can we do with what we will know about the topic in discourse? We believe that with these three indicators, in effective play and with a strong and deliberate presence of mind, if you have a strong consciousness that our tribe members' personalities, which is actually their state of being, that means the state of mind, will be optimal, leading us into a healthy state of homeostasis, both health-wise and wealth-wise. For as long as members of this tribe keep taking the daily and the 9 pills daily, for as long as we keep thinking identical thoughts or we build on similar thoughts, we believe that when we keep demonstrating the same behaviors based on the 9 synthesis toolbox kit pills, when we keep living by the same feelings and the same emotions, then especially our personal health realities will be similar or grow to be exactly the same. That is what we want to achieve. However, when we have the new thoughts that lead to new choices, which demonstrate new awarenesses and new actions, this will create new health and wealth experiences that will cause us to feel differently. We should be prepared for unfamiliar feelings and unfamiliar daily commitments. It is in this unfamiliar and new environment that we'll begin to walk into a new optimal health and wealth future. That is the purpose of this tribe. Let's take a pot shot at defining both the conscious and subconscious minds. Your conscious mind commands, that's what it does, it commands, and your subconscious mind obeys. Your subconscious mind is meant to be an unquestioning servant that works day and night to make your behavior fit a pattern consistent with your emotionalized thoughts, consistent with your hopes and desires. All your habits of thinking and acting are stored in your subconscious mind. Every one of them. Now, I love this definition that I'm going to give you or that I've given you, which is as defined by one of my mentors, Brian Tracy. Okay, he says all your habits of thinking and acting are stored in your subconscious mind. I love it. Now, my favorite book says that when you teach a child how he or she should live, when that child waxes older, he or she will not depart from that teaching. Okay? Aristotle is recorded to have said, "Give me a child until he is 7, and I will show you the man." Also the Jesuits, I believe. Okay, they also believe the same thing. Essentially, the philosophy that I believe in, one of the philosophies that this tribe is being built upon, is that everything we were taught up to 7 years of age determines 95% of our lives and how we act. Now, can I repeat that? The philosophy that we believe in this tribe, okay, that we're going to build upon, is that everything that we've been taught up to the age of 7 determines 95% of our lives and how we act. Now, what we in this tribe believe in is that 95% of our lives comes from the cultural environment and the programs of life on how to live that we got in the first 7 years of life. So where does that leave us? Does that mean that we are victims of our hereditary or victims of environment? Well, yes, it does, when we let that become our reality. So when an infant, a child, when a child is open to new ideas and philosophies, when you have a lower mental and mind vibration, which is lower than consciousness. Now, when I say consciousness, I mean when you have programs already installed in your minds where you already have set ideas. Okay, that's what I mean by consciousness. Then by just being a functional member of a family and a functional member of a community. Now, that family or community will be governed by rules. And these rules are rules that are downloaded on a daily basis. So what happens then is that 95% of the end result of our lives will come from those programs set in the subconsciousness. Okay? I believe you are following what I'm saying here. You're with me. If you look at the word sub means below. Below as in this context, below consciousness. Now, the fact and philosophy that I'm trying to put across with this 8th pill, which to me will be the pill that when we take daily, the pill of education and empowerment, when we take daily and when we embrace it, we will definitely redirect the course of our lives, both financially and health-wise. Now, the thought that through the principle of repetition, okay, this is a philosophy and a fact that I'm trying to put across using this 8th pill. Through the principle of repetition, through daily meditation, and through daily application, I believe that we can effectively change what we've been programmed to, or what we've been programmed to believe during the first 7 years of our lives. We can effectively break out of the molds of accepted and predetermined norms and values, of the systems and information that have been hardwired in our subconsciousness, by us deliberately reprogramming our minds with the 9 pills in the Synthesis Toolbox Kit. Guys, we can do this. We can reprogram and reboot our hardware with new and controlled information that will provide us with the foundation to a life of optimal health and wealth. The reason why I say this, and the reason why I say this is so relevant, is because, and I want to reiterate, 95% of our life comes from the programs in our subconsciousness, and only 5% of our lives are about us using our consciousness. That is what it is. Okay. Now, bringing this philosophy to bear on us is this. I want to demonstrate something here. Now, we in this tribe, we are particularly concerned about changing the programs in our subconsciousness, where we've been fed a lot of times media manipulated repetition. That is repetition that has been manipulated by the media, by the press, by the education system. We've been fed repeatedly information that is fed to us by our peers, by our parents, and in context of this podcast, and in context of this group, this tribe, by Big Pharma. So that once we take a particular course of action, the end result is already preordained and predetermined. When I mean a course of action, once we take one pill, one petrochemical nonsense pill, chronic illness and severe ill health are the already preordained and predetermined results. Yes, it does appear that I'm repeating the very same thing over and over again. And that in itself is deliberate. It is deliberate because the two fundamental and the two ways that our subconscious minds get educated and empowered, there are two ways we get educated and empowered, two fundamental ways. Now, the first is through the stage characterized to suggestions. Okay, it's the stage in which we are open to suggestions. kind of like natural hypnosis, which we experience in the first 7 years of our lives. Remember, I said at that time, at that point in time, our minds are subconscious. We are under the level of consciousness. The vibration level of our minds is below that which can be picked up by consciousness. So we are in a natural hypnotic state in the first 7 years of our lives. That's the first way of programming our minds and getting empowered and educated. Now, the second way is after the age of 7. The second way in which new programs are put in us is through repetition, through practice. Repetition, practice is the learning that happens, for instance, when you want to drive a car. I mean, this is not done by observation like in the first 7 years. You don't learn how to drive by just getting in the seat and turning the key. You will have had to practice and practice and practice and practice driving the car. Just like you wanting to learn the alphabet. Remember how many times you needed to go from A to Z? It was done over and over. Remember how many times you had to try and try in order to learn it before you can then say, yes, I have completed it. However, once you've completed learning the alphabet or learning how to drive, you don't have to go back to it and do it again and again. It's become an installed program in, guess where? Your subconsciousness. So the two phases you need in order to train the subconscious mind are through what I call natural hypnosis and through repetition. Now this will change, or rather, yeah, this will change the ways in which we educate ourselves. And this change will only happen when we educate ourselves. So it's a bit of, they depend on each other. This is what I'm about to in the series of Speaks. Okay, this is why we set up this 9 pills toolbox kit to reprogram our minds. And the 2 ways to education, okay, which we have to apply are hypnosis in a theta state of theta, or repetition in a conscious state. Now, both learnings feed our subconsciousness and they eventually become our realities. I'm going to expand more on that in the next podcast. So I don't want to get ahead of myself. But these two, these are the 2 cultural environments that we believe through education we will utilize in order to empower ourselves out of poverty and out of a chronic poor quality of health or out of a diseased state of being. I need to spend a few minutes on meditation or on this particular topic, right? I have a philosophy and this is it. In life, those who believe in and practice a certain philosophy will become to arrange a definition that is positive to that philosophy. Now, those who don't believe in it will have a different definition. So I'm referring to the fact that I believe that meditation is hypnosis. Okay, so if you believe in that practice, in meditation, in this case being subtle hypnosis, then you will have a positive definition to that. And I'm using hypnosis here in the context of meditation. So we need to draw that and make that a clear definition here. Now, hypnosis in its raw definition helps you in various ways, and it is a calm state of altered consciousness that allows a person to recall memories or to be guided to change a behavior. An example would be to help somebody or someone stop smoking. That's hypnosis. While in parallel, meditation in its raw definition is a practice in which individuals train the mind or induce a mode of consciousness. Now, the word hypnosis traces its origin from the 3rd century BC, and it's the Greek word hypnos, which means dream. So I'm going to give you two definitions of hypnosis. Okay, I'm going to give you first a negative definition. A negative definition would be the induction of a state of consciousness in which a person loses the power of voluntary action and is highly responsive to suggestion or direction. That's a negative definition of hypnosis. I'm going to give you a positive definition, being that hypnosis is a state of human consciousness involving focused attention and reduced peripheral awareness and an enhanced capacity for response to suggestion. Now, here is my favorite definition of hypnosis. I define it, or I refer to it as a state which resembles sleep, but is produced by a person who can then make suggestions to which the person in this state can respond. So the hypnosis that we are referring to here is self-hypnosis, which is extremely effective in helping each of us enter into the positive aspects of meditation. Meditation in our context is self-hypnosis. The word meditation coming from the Latin word meditare, which has a range of meanings, including to reflect on, to study, and also to practice. Now, religious meditation is a process of deliberately focusing on specific thoughts as provided by good books like the Quran, the Hindu, the Buddhist, or through biblical passages. When you deliberately focus on specific thoughts from each of these channels and you reflect on their meaning in the context of the love of God, this is what changes you. This is what meditation is. Now, if you're an atheist, I'm sorry, I cannot help you. My favorite book says in the book of Job, for God speaks in one way and in two, though man does not perceive it. He speaks in a dream, he speaks in a vision of the night. When deep sleep falls on men, he speaks while they slumber on their beds. Then he opens the ears of men and terrifies them with warnings that may turn man aside from his deed and conceal pride from a man. He keeps back his soul from the pit. He keeps his life from perishing by the sword. Now, this is deep. And this platform is not one to dwell on this. However, I just need to mention, and I need to mention that deep sleep, as I've given a reference to the book of Job, deep sleep in that state of theta is when we can change our subconsciousness. I personally like to play out some meditation or some particular clips when I'm sleeping. I play them through my through sleep. What I want changed when I'm in a conscious state. So I engage my subconscious when I'm in deep sleep with what I want to see in my life in my conscious state. I hope I'm making sense. Now Joseph, as recorded in my favorite book, he puts it this way: do not interpretations belong to God? And he says, please tell them to me. This is in response when he was told by the Israelites that we have had dreams and there is no one to interpret them. And then he said, give it to me and I'll interpret the dreams. So our 9 pills are what we are saying we need to make use of to initiate a state of self-hypnosis in order to create a strong presence of mind and put each person into an alternate state and reinforce our 9 pills in order to overcome a problem. Or like I like to put it, not problems, but challenges. Now, our challenges are here is that we've been hypnotized into certain behavior patterns or certain beliefs during our first 7 years with belief systems that have not helped us in the area of achieving optimal health and wealth. We have garnered on these philosophies to come up with synthesis, a tool on how to change the quality of our lives through the application of the 9 pills in the toolbox kit. The operative word here being change. We need to change. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm going to have to run through quickly to capture the next few that I want to pass across to you. So we need change. We all grew up in a state of near hypnosis where we imitated and copied everything we saw. We everything we heard and everything we felt up to the age of 7. Okay. Now we need to educate, or do I say re-educate ourselves in order to get ourselves out of that matrix that we were socialized in. Now this is if where we are right now needs to be changed. If you don't need to change anything, then you're fine. We need to understand that change is actually a constant that we need to experience in life in order to succeed. So change is not a stagnant feature. It's a constant application in our lives. I believe and I stand by the fact that 95% of what we are today are results of the first 7 years of our lives. Those first 7 years created in us through a state of theta meditation, a subconsciousness, a layering of beliefs, of ideologies, habits, and characters that were mirrored from the environments that we grew up in or environment that we were exposed to. Now, theta occurs most often in sleep, but is also dominant in deep meditation. Theta is our gateway to learning, is our gateway to memory and intuition. In the state of theta, we are in a dream. We have vivid imagery, intuition, and information beyond our normal conscious awareness. Have you ever wondered why it's easy for a child born into a rich home to succeed in life, at least financially, even though he might be stupid? I won't mention the name of a certain president who cannot just thump on the fact that he is plain like Donald Duck. I mean, he's really like all nuts. I won't mention. It's easy for us, if you're a child born into a rich home, to succeed in life, and at least, like I said, financially. And why it's also easy for a child born into a poor family to struggle in life, even after winning a heavy take home of, say, $10 million in a lottery cleanout. I'll tell you why it's very easy. Okay. Well, the two scenarios painted are results of what we see of the subconscious mind being programmed. So being born into a poor family is not a choice anyone made when he fetus. You are born, you are at that point in time below consciousness, okay? However, living life in either poverty or wealth, when now an adult, when now a conscious being, is a choice that you make, and one that you will need to make with the 5% of you that is not programmed by your subconsciousness, which are the things you learned through observation and mirroring as a below consciousness person. If you do not do that, you could struggle your whole life, trying to get rich. However, you are just not going to make it. And if you are born into a rich family, you really could be stupid your whole life and make it, not because it was thinking that made you rich. However, it was unconscious behavior that was downloaded from the DNA of your rich families, belief systems that were put into you as a child through you hearing, smelling, and experiencing certain things. Now, I'm going to have to put this to a stop at this point in time and continue on the next podcast because there's going to be a podcast after this. Okay, so you just need to check into the next podcast, click on the link, and we're going to run through the conclusion on this particular podcast. Thank you for your time. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for logging in. And check out my next podcast. It's the C part on this series. Thanks so much, and God bless. Bye.